Planet Mission Part 1 by David Claiborne, as read by the author. New chapters every Monday. The full novel is available on Amazon.com and other online retailers. Links in the description. Chapter 4. A Weekly Meeting. A relatively large, general-use recreation room, which both the crew and passengers shared, sat forward of the Arca's observation lounge. It had a flat, smooth, metallic floor and walls. 3 times a day the crew organized the room as a cafeteria, setting up chairs that were otherwise stowed against the bulkheads. The rest of the day the floor was clear, and the room open for general use. Regulations dictated that each missionary stay physically healthy, which included at least 20 minutes of cardiovascular exercise 6 days a week, permitting 1 day for recovery. The regulation was a holdover for when most ships did not generate artificial gravity but had survived. Exercise helped stave off bone density loss and muscular atrophy common to zero-gravity environments. The routine also ensured that all crew and missionaries had at least one thing to do nearly every day to relieve stress and boredom. It was no longer medically necessary, since nearly all ships had gravity of some kind. The administration was slow to change, however, so the regulation remained. As such, the recreation room became a de facto exercise room much of the day. Waters, who was getting ready for his workout, saw Bo walking out of the rec room and tossed him a towel. Bo snatched the towel out of the air and batted at the sweat on his face. "It's humid in here today," he said. "I don't usually sweat this much during workouts." "You're just out of shape," Waters retorted. Bo chuckled. "How many pull-ups do you plan to do today, Director Waters?" "All of them. How many did you do?" Waters asked. 21, Bo said. "I'll probably do more like 30 then," Waters said. Bo twirled his towel around, twisting it into a fine whip. "Besides, with your form, I don't think a single pull-up was done today," Waters said, angling his hips forward to dodge Bo's towel snap. "Bo, wait just a moment," Waters said, as Bo fled for the door. Bo heard the change in Waters' tone and turned to face him. He could tell Waters needed something, although he wrapped the towel around his hand just in case he needed a defense. Waters was glad that Bo stayed. Though Waters was on good terms with all the missionaries, his title caused the others to be reserved around him. Director meant a certain deference no matter his relationship with the missionaries. Waters was certain that even Jazzy often answered according to regulation around him. The regulations had value in that they maintained a level of expectation for behavior, thought, and speech. The regulations did not, however, broker much independence. Time spent individually was an opportunity for expression. Waters noted one of Bo's drones slumped near the door. "You know, part of the purpose of recording the mission is for documentation purposes," he remarked. "Yeah, that's why I'm here," Bo replied. "I don't mean documentation in the sense of a documentary," Waters said. "I'm talking about behavioral documentation, in case anyone should engage in any deviant or unorthodox behavior. They told you that during your training, right? That part of your job, the job of anyone recording the mission, is to be alert for potentially concerning behavior?" Bo thought back to his training. He was certain he had been told as much. A human resources specialist on loan to Mufasa from the DID had spent a day briefing the missionaries, including separate breakout sessions for education on the responsibilities of their individual roles. Bo had only pretended to pay attention, though he did not want to admit that to Waters. The Mufasa selection process was so vigorous that it would be unheard of for a missionary to deviate from the regulations, so he did not think it would come up. "That was part of our training. I don't expect I'll need to report anyone from our team, though," he said. "It's everyone's responsibility to report deviant behavior or unorthodox thinking, of course. The point is that you're the one whose documentation can support any concerns," Waters said. "It's a big responsibility," Bo said. "I don't think we'll need it, though. I mean, you've seen the team. We've been together for weeks now, even accounting for Molly being gone for training. If anything was going to come up, it probably would have by now." "It's important," Waters said. "Anyone can be on their best behavior for a few weeks, even several months. I want to ask you to do something, as a favor." "What?" "Would you pay special attention to Molly?" "Why her?" "She's important to the administration and to the mission. She represents everything our mission stands for." You mean because she renounced her parents' religion? And supported the administration, yes, and accepted the benefits of a unified society under our administration's vision. She put aside her family for these values. That's what we're going to be asking the colonists to do. She's living proof that it's possible, Bo said. Exactly, she is, Waters said. She's more than just another denouncer, she's a symbol. For the administration, for Mufasa, for our mission. So, would you keep an eye on her for me? Sure. Why, though? She's been fine so far. We need to be sure she's genuine. Let me know if you see anything that's not 100% on mission standards. You mean make sure her public denunciation was genuine? Yes, that, but also make sure she has what she needs and that she is a part of the mission. I haven't told the others, and they don't really need to know, but her performance is one of our supplemental mission objectives, Waters said. And you and Jazzy want to meet all the objectives, Bo said. That, yes, but I have a feeling this is more than just a supplemental objective for Mufasa. Back in his quarters, after his workout and freshly showered, Waters brought up the system interface in his quarters. He was still toweling off his hair, though he was dressed once more in his official Mufasa jumper, complete with director patch. The user interface scrolled across the portal in his room, partially obscuring the stars outside, though little points of light broke through occasionally behind the menus and windows. He pressed his thumb to the screen, inhaled deeply, held his breath for a few moments, then slowly exhaled and opened a channel to Earth. It was time for his weekly one-on-one with his boss. The face of a woman appeared on the screen. Mundial Federated Air and Space Administration, this is Freya. How may I help you? Said a woman. She was Freya Stannisdaughter, director of Mufasa, the government agency for which Waters and the entire mission ostensibly worked, although he was the only official employee of the agency. The remainder of the team were the result of a public selection process. Even Bo was just a contracted specialist. He had worked his way to his position after more than 15 years with Mufasa, having begun as a first-line representative. His promotion to mission director had been under Stannisdaughter's predecessor and, as she had informed him, more than once, had not been a unanimous selection. Even so, he was proud to be directing his own mission and had committed himself to doing what was necessary to see its success. Stannisdaughter, by contrast, was a cabinet secretary appointed by the president. Though the average tenure of someone in her position was no more than a few years, proven once again by her incumbency to the presidency, his integrity still obligated him to do his best for her. Good morning, Freya. Good morning, Waters, she replied, using his surname. Her formality took him somewhat aback. Is it time for our weekly appointment? It is. And since today is Friday, may I wish you a happy your day? Waters chuckled, trying to lighten the mood a bit. Director Stannisdaughter's expression did not change. You see, he continued, Friday was named for the old goddess Freya, Freya's Day, which eventually got shortened to Friday. Either she did not get the joke, which was unlikely, she did not think it was that funny, which was probable, or she was not in the mood, which was most likely. I'm glad you only said so in private, she continued. I remind you, Waters, that references to religion of any kind, even dead and forgotten ones, are grounds for a grievance on the basis of offense. It is imperative that we guard our language carefully to maintain a positive working relationship with all of our employees. She was not in the mood. I understand, Director, Waters replied. Of course you were right. It's only because I am comfortable that you know me well enough to understand that I make no assumption or reference to thinking of any kind that religion is appropriate workplace discussion. Still, I hope that your Friday is going well, he said. That's all right, she said, ignoring his polite inquiry. We're all learning and we'll get there eventually. Very well, where shall we begin? Let me check my notes. She swiped her hand to move various items around her screen as she searched. That's right, we had one of your staff for whom we needed a regularly scheduled update, and one I needed to follow up on. Who shall we start with? She asked. It does not matter, I am ready to discuss them all, Waters replied. All right then, let's start with the easy and move to the difficult. Tell me about Bo Lee. Bo remains a perfectly competent member of the team. He attends briefings appropriately, consistently uses standardized language, and he attends to his duties as required. He has participated in all training sessions. In preparation for our arrival, he is collecting footage and running regular diagnostics on the video equipment to make sure it functions correctly and that he can document the mission as per his position, Waters reported. Stanna's daughter showed no response. "What is your assessment of our ability to reach our target goal?" she asked. Waters considered for a moment. "We, together with Bo, continue to work as hard as we can to ensure that we get as close to 100% positive response to the mission documentary as we can." He paused. "I feel the need to register my concerns with a target goal of 100%, though. It is not reasonable to expect 100% audience satisfaction and saturation. Mufasa's target, the administration set its targets using a thorough and scientific analysis process. I'm surprised that you would question them," Stanna's daughter interrupted. For the administration, scientific meant not so much a process as a predetermined conclusion that must be supported. "Of course, the administration's methods are sound," he said. "Even so, I continue to register my concern that Mufasa is being set up for failure. These targets, the administration controls our funding, as you know. These targets were set after input from testimony of licensed members before Congress. Of course, we would like to achieve complete saturation and satisfaction. That's everyone's goal. It's just not possible. There will always be people who dissent or refuse to participate, and the testimony you're referencing was mostly just the wishful thinking of activist groups and their attorneys taking advantage of representatives who have only the slightest education on the matter, and even that may be generous. I hear what you are saying, but this is our budgeted goal, and if we are to maintain our current level of funding, this is the target we must meet. You must meet. Now then, tell me about McDahee." Molly. Molly was a welcome member of the team. She was also, in his opinion, the least skilled member of the team. Unlike the rest of them, she did not yet have a doctorate. She had been in the middle of her studies when she joined the mission. Her family background was problematic, and she was the least deserving of the honor of participating in an official mission to one of the colonies. She was still a missionary, however, and a member of his team. Furthermore, he was determined they would all succeed. Her success meant his success. Molly continues to perform as expected given her skill set and duties, which of course, given her purpose on this mission, is difficult to evaluate. During flight, she is limited to reviewing data provided by Polus Station to make sure she can successfully identify as much wildlife as possible once we are on the surface, which she has mastered, not to mention her preparatory training and education. "What about the agreement?" Stanna's daughter asked. "Has she been compliant with the conditions of her participation?" "She has. We have received no indication nor report that she has engaged in any offensive behavior thus far. Her denunciation appears to have been genuine." "Has the screen revealed any deviant behavior?" she asked. "We continue to have difficulty monitoring her, and all missionaries for that matter, using the screens in their quarters. The ship is an older model, and my understanding is that the screens were installed during a refit. The only space in the quarters was below a clothing rack. Most of the screens are obscured, including Molly's. We can only monitor them effectively if they choose to watch something on their screens, which isn't often given that most people use their phones." "I'm sure you can come up with a solution, Waters. She is an important asset for the administration. I am counting on you to manage her participation in the mission successfully. Have you tried monitoring her Li-Fi traffic for data?" "Of course. She rarely uses her phone, though. I understand how important she is to the administration," Waters said. "And what about your crew?" "I'm confident that they are all very much aware of the appropriate Orthodox protocols and behavior, and that, given their extensive training, each and every one of them would immediately report any heterodox actions directly to me. As for—" Waters stopped. He was about to express the difficulties he had with the Arca's captain, and to a lesser extent the flight surgeon. The Arca was a contracted vessel and Jackson the owner. He did not fall under Mufasa's authority. Jackson needed only to comply with the stipulations of his contract, which were that he successfully transport the mission from Earth to Polus Station. By law, a government contract could not dictate the manner or methods, only the specific goal a contractor must meet. He thought better of lodging a protest with the director. She would only insist it was his responsibility to ensure the captain was kept under control, and that he keep any heterodox material from the mission and its team. "Yes, Waters," Stanna's daughter said. "I was going to say, as for Molly's inclusion in this mission, I would once again like to register my dissatisfaction. She is the only member of the team I was not permitted to participate in selecting. I am not a warden or disciplinarian, and neither is any other missionary. This mission is too important to risk with the potential of aberrant and heretical thinking compromising its integrity. Neither do I appreciate being used as the administration's implement of coercion, especially without being consulted first, and especially without my consent. So noted, Waters, as I have done so before. Do I need to repeat the purpose of her presence on this mission? She asked. Waters considered asking her to do so just to have the satisfaction of wasting a bit of her time, but decided against it. No, of course, I understand. It is simply not the choice I would have made. That is fine, and you are free to express your views with me, so long as you only do so with me. I trust that you are maintaining confidentiality in this matter? Of course I am. Confidentiality is one of our most important values. I expected nothing less. You only need to complete the mission with her as part of the team. She was given a position consistent with her known capabilities, in part to make your stewardship easier. I understand, Waters said. Very good. Well, I have another meeting to attend to in a couple of minutes. Is there anything else we need to discuss at this time? There was one more thing, Director. Do you remember a few weeks ago there was a group of children remanded into administration custody in New York State? Vaguely. What about it? Was Molly's family among them? I do not know for certain, Waters, but I don't believe so. That would be the purview of the Department of Human Services. I only ask because if it were the case, the administration would have violated its agreement with her, and she would be under no obligation to comply with the mission. I'll check if it's that important to you. All right then, we have a scheduled call again next week at the same time. I have it on my calendar. Good, I'll talk to you then. Have a good weekend. One day was practically identical to the next during spaceflight, so the concept of a weekend was meaningless, but he replied, "You too," anyway, and ended the call. You handled that very well, Director Waters, Jazzy said coyly as she emerged from the corner of his cabin where she had been watching from a spot the camera could not see her. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders and gave him a peck on the cheek. Thank you, Jazzy. You know I value your support, Waters said. The call's done. You can let go of the official tone now, you know, she said. Waters winced a bit. She was right. It was hard to stop speaking officially when one did so often. Don't worry about Molly. She obviously came aboard in a low mental state. All the signs were there: reduced affect, psychomotor slowing. She arrived with a diagnosis of depression. It can only be worsening given the degree of boredom and isolation she is subject to. I have been administering a placebo in place of her prescribed med, so she is sure to remain in that state and more easily controlled, Jazzy said. Waters had reservations about treating a member of his team that way, even if mental health management, along with calculated nutritional suppression, was compliant with the administration's guidelines for containment of potential deviance. Jazzy was right, though. Keeping her bored and listless was the easiest way to ensure she did not cause any problems and did not compromise the mission given her lack of training. After all, if she could betray her family, even if for a good cause, who was to say she would not betray the mission? We should check to see what she's up to, Jazzy said. Bring up the screen in her room. I was telling Stannisdaughter the truth during the call. It's not going to show anything, Waters said. Let's just check. I may have an idea. Waters stepped over to the screen in his own quarters, activated his override, and swiped to Molly's room. The screen had patches of light peeking through, but the only thing they had a clear view of were shirt sleeves and pant legs. It's as I said. Doesn't she ever watch TV? Jazzy said. She doesn't, and she's the only one. No wonder she's so bored, Waters said. It could also be part of her constellation of symptoms, but that would be unusual. Depressed people find it all too easy to fill their time with mindless tasks like television, Jazzy said. Maybe we can get the crew to do a special pre-arrival cleaning of each of the quarters, as a gift, or we could implement the pre-arrival quarters check protocol. How would you justify that? Waters asked. The usual health and safety reasons should work fine, Jazzy said. I'll think about it. We're due to arrive at Polus Station soon, though. I'm not sure what we can learn at this point in the trip, or what we could do about it. You should get back to your cabin before Waters began, but Jazzy was already dressing. She hugged and kissed him again, then gave Waters a tender look of superiority. She tapped the door, which began to slide open, but she arrested the motion with her hand to check that no one was on the deck outside, and then silently slid into the hallway. The door shut itself behind her. Bo looked down the ladder from the observation lounge above and watched Jazzy cross the hallway to her own room before turning away, feeling the confusion of both shame and envy.